From the Great Basin to the Rockies to the four corners of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico, this is KMMU Main Street Media Utah coming to you live. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, X, and our website, kmmu.org. Please join our host, Goud Maragani, for the Goud Crowd, the only radio broadcast good enough to be monitored by Utah's State Bureau of Investigation. Take it away, Goud.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the Goud Crowd. I'm your host, Goud. I am broadcasting today from sunny and beautiful San Diego, California, because I'm visiting my sister. Actually, I'm watching her house and her dogs while she is off enjoying Europe with her husband and family. So they're on a much needed vacation, and I am here also in a vacation area enjoying the weather. Okay. We have an exciting show today. I have a lot of things I want to talk about. I have so much on my mind. I think what we will start with, though, is we'll start with Pride Month. I think many of you guys know that Pride Month is almost over. It's June of every year, and we have not had a proper discussion about it. And but we'll talk about it in the context of Amelia Powers Gardner, because I think that's actually more interesting. So, but before I get to that, I want to start by saying this. We have a problem in Utah of elected officials who are blocking constituents, and it really needs to stop. So let me just give you an example here. This is Mike Lee from his based Mike Lee account, has blocked this guy, Nate in the Wild. And I guess his name is Nate Lubby, something like that. Anyway, I just think if you're in an elected office or if you're in politics at all, you should not be blocking people on social media. You should be having the conversations with them and allowing them to interact with you, because, I mean, certainly more if you're in an elected office, it's a great way for you to gauge where your constituents are, at least the ones that are active on social media. Mike Lee is not the only one. There are so many elected officials in Utah who are constantly blocking people. And I just think, and did I say in social media? I meant in Utah. There's so many elected officials in Utah who are blocking people on social media. So Mike Lee does a lot of this from that based Mike Lee account. I don't really think you can argue that this is a personal account. This is clearly just a political account that he has. That's not his official Senate account. Personally, I've been blocked by, I'm sure you'll be shocked to hear this, but I've been blocked by Governor Cox on his personal account, so the Spencer J. Cox account. And I've been blocked by Amelia Powers Gardner, and I've been blocked by Amy Winder Newton. I'm sure many of you are shocked that Amy has blocked me, and I'm sure she's blocked some of you as well. But on the Amelia Powers Gardner piece, I wonder if part of the reason why she's blocked me is because she's trying to avoid sexually harassing me because I'm gay, because she has a habit of doing that to gay men. So in 2021, Amelia was the county clerk of Utah County. And she decided to run for the county commission because one of the seats on the Utah County Commission was vacated, or I think the person resigned and they had a special election. At least I'm pretty sure that's how this went. Anyway, so there were complaints made about her behavior towards a male employee who's gay. And the Utah County attorney investigated the allegations and found that they were substantiated. He found that she violated Utah County's policy, their anti-harassment policy, and that she sexually harassed this gay man. Let me pull up this article because there's actually a lot of stuff in here that's pretty disturbing, to be honest about this. So I'm gonna stop sharing my Mike Lee blocking people post. If you're listening to this, Mike Lee, you should unblock people. It's not right. If you believe in free speech, you should believe in free speech. Practice it. Okay, so here is the article from KMMU TV about it. Let's see if it comes up. Okay, there we go. It's up. You can see it apparently. I don't know why I don't like this. Whatever. Okay. First of all, just as an aside here, this sweater is horrible. Amelia, if you're listening, just throw that sweater out. That's really a bad sweater. Okay. While I'm talking, by the way, if you want to call in at any point in time and comment on what we're discussing, or if you have something you want to talk about, the call-in number is 385-899-2134. We love your calls. So call in. People love to hear from you, whatever it is about. So basically here, the Utah County Clerk Auditor found, I guess it was, that doesn't make sense. Okay, here. So the Utah County Attorney's Office did an investigation, and they found that Amelia Powers Gardner, a Republican elected official in Utah County, violated the Utah County's workplace harassment policy by sexually harassing a former male employee over his sexual orientation. The former male employee is gay, so she harassed him because he was gay. Now, there was some stuff in here that I thought was nuts. Well, first of all, she said in her statement to 2 News that she called out certain officials within Utah County who want to possibly hurt my chances in the upcoming special election for Utah County Commissioner by bringing up issues from last year. And she was one of the people running for, like I was saying, the vacancy was created by this Tanner Ainge. I guess that's I don't know who this guy is, but so let's see here. So the investigator's report details a complaint brought to Utah County Human Resources in October by a former male employee. The way that's worded is a little bit weird because it almost sounds like he's trans, but whatever. A former male employee who said Powers Gardner had screamed at him and thrown her keys and purse at him twice without hitting him. Just so we're a little clear on this, that is attempted battery when you throw stuff at people like that. So they kind of downplay it here and make it sound like it's not a big deal. But I actually think the fact that she was throwing stuff at her employee is an issue. The former employee also said the clerk auditor berated him in front of others and had made numerous references to his sexual orientation, calling him her gay Democratic assistant, and that his performance is great for being a gay Democrat. The complaint alleges Powers Gardner made additional comments directed at the former employee's sexuality. And then according to the report, the Human Resources Director interviewed 4 other employees in the office who corroborated the accusations. The director later met with Powers Gardner, who was very upset and incredulous that this was being investigated. So this is not someone who's been cooperative or feeling remorse. She's actually mad that they're investigating it, and said she had no idea her conduct was offensive. On December 9th, the complaint was referred to the Utah County Attorney's Office, which later conducted an investigation. And then you can see the investigation here. Though Ms. Powers at times has rationalized and minimized her behavior towards the former employee, it is clear she is more conscientious now of her actions and comments, the Utah County Attorney's investigator wrote. She has also completed Utah County's workplace harassment training and has taken active steps in drawing attention to potential and future workplace harassment problems. So this happened at the end of 2020. That's when the harassment occurred. The investigation was in 2021. And all she had to do was to take workplace harassment training as a result of being found to have sexually harassed her gay employee. And I guess, from my perspective, I don't understand why anyone would elect someone into office right after learning about what they did. To me, this actually requires a cooling off period. You need to go away for a while, think about what you did to your employee, because this is one employee who complained, but based on kind of how she responded, there may have been other employees that she was also harassing or abusing in different ways, right? Oh, just so we're clear, her position, she was the Utah County Clerk at the time that the harassment happened. So she's an elected official that runs their elections. And she had decided, when the investigation was going on, she had decided she was going to run for this Utah County Commissioner spot. And 2020, that's when all the election stuff is happening, right? That's the Trump election in 2020, that there are lots of shenanigans, that maybe raises some questions about how well run that election was, although we were told repeatedly it was the best and most secure run election of all time. Don't question it. If you question it, you're a conspiracy theorist, and you don't deserve to run our election systems or be in any sort of power because you're a bad person. Okay. All right. So then in her statement responding, Powers Gardner said, "A conflict arose within our office with one of my all-star employees." That's quite a change from what she was saying before. I'm just going to go up and read that statement again because I think that's so. Here's what she said before. She used to call him her gay Democratic assistant, and that his performance is great for being a gay Democrat. And now she's changed it to, oh man, okay. "A conflict arose within our office with one of my all-star employees, which I also consider a longtime, close personal friend. The conflict arose from personal miscommunication during the most stressful time in the 2020 election and briefly became a problem within the office." So in addition to all the issues with elections, those problems caused Amelia Powers Gardner to sexually harass her gay employee. Oh, go figure. So she's blaming stress for throwing her keys and purse at the guy. I don't know what kind of miscommunication you could have there, right? I mean, this just seems kind of odd. And certainly, if you're close friends with somebody, I'm sure miscommunications can happen, but once you get into the workplace, you really kind of have to adjust your relationships, especially if you are a supervisor to somebody. You cannot be treating them like that. Okay, let's see here. So she said that. She also says, "I regretted my part in the conflict with such a valued friend and am committed to improve moving forward. HR made some recommendations, which we gladly followed, and everyone involved believed the matter was resolved and closed." Now, here's the other problem with this: this is not an issue within her office, meaning that some of her employees were acting poorly. This was Amelia Powers Gardner herself sexually harassing a man because he was gay. That's very different than a leadership problem that causes some sort of failures in your organization with your individual people because they don't understand what's expected of them. She is the actual leader, and it was her own behavior that was the problem here. Now, let's see here. Then he said, "The former employee said he was dismayed that this issue surfaced after Powers Gardner announced her candidacy for Utah County Commission, and he said he has no part in this apparent political vendetta," which is fine, whatever. I mean, look, he's the victim. If he wants to say that, okay, fine, whatever. But and it may be that he actually, I think, quit and went somewhere else. So clearly this impacted him. But he may not want to be involved in the political piece of this because maybe he wasn't political. And then this is interesting. Former Utah County Commissioner Nathan Ivey also issued a statement in support of Powers Gardner. Now, Nathan Ivey had come out as gay in 2019. So now we're talking within 2 years of him telling people that he's gay. He then says, "Without fail, she treated me, an openly gay colleague, with professionalism and respect. More impressive to me is her commitment to that all with whom she deals, regardless of race, religion, or sexual orientation, are treated fairly and equally. I repeatedly witnessed that commitment firsthand." Well, except that this investigation found that she sexually harassed her gay employee for being gay. So what he said isn't even true. Maybe she treated Nathan differently because he was also an elected official, but she did not treat her employee very well, who was gay. And so I'm disappointed when people make statements like this because it's very political. Instead of being principled about it, she should not have done what she did to that employee. That's the bottom line. And there should be consequences when you do that. She did this in 2020. Everybody knows how you are supposed to act in a workplace in 2020. They drill into your head annual training about not sexually harassing people, not discriminated against people for their innate qualities, all these types of things. And she failed at doing that. And now we have elected officials making excuses for her. And they're doing this, by the way, during the Republican primary. So at this point in time, they could have just said, hey, you know what? We have other choices. We should go with a different choice because this was a failure on her part of character. And we don't want people like this in elected office until they're able to take a cooling off period, right? Finish your term as a county clerk. And then when you're done, maybe you shouldn't even run for re-election. Take a break. Go and think about what you did wrong and why you did it. And then come back in a few years and explain to us why we should trust you again, right? Because like you don't want your, regardless of what you think of government employees, you don't want them being harassed based on being any sort of innate qualities. So because they're gay, because they're a woman, because they're brown, whatever it is. Okay. So just continue here, right? So the investigator interviewed 4 other employees in the clerk's office who had previously corroborated the allegations, and they reiterated their concerns about their boss's behavior. So this is actually not a one-time thing. One of them, the investigator wrote, said they left the office due to the comments Ms. Powers would make, as well as other unrelated poor behavior that was occurring in the office. Another said Powers Gardner's comments toward the former employee about his sexual orientation were very inappropriate and offensive. All 4 employees said they were afraid of retaliation from Ms. Powers and her administration and asked to remain anonymous. You see that? She's such a... They're afraid of her. Her employees were scared to even be named and to come forward. That's awful. So how many other people were having problems in the office that she was running? We don't even know because they're probably too scared to come forward. Okay. Then Amelia responds to this. Regarding those 4 employees, Powers Gardner said they were indirectly affected and are very concerned about this violation of their privacy and have no desire to be involved publicly. I support them in their wishes. Well, of course. She doesn't want them to come out because look at what they said under being anonymous. Can you imagine if they come forward with stories that they will tell about what she was doing at the Utah County Clerk's office and the danger of having someone like this in office at all? Okay, let's see here. Okay, so that's the first part of this. Now, this is where I think this actually gets really interesting because you have, like I said, that she's done these horrible things to this employee. She has shown that she is not really, I think, a good leader. She sexually harassed a man for being gay. We don't know what else she's done because at least 4 employees have come forward and said they're afraid of retaliation from her. So now let me show you this. And this gets me worked up, okay? Let me just say this first. So this comes out, and for timeline, Amelia is running in a primary with, I think, 8 or 9 other Republicans to be the Republican nominee to fill this now vacant county commission seat. So she wants to move from the county clerk's office to the Utah County Commission. So if you're a voter or if you're an elected official who has endorsed her, you could endorse one of these 8 or 9 other people in recognizing that she's done something bad and you could move on from her. Now, before we get to that, where was Equality Utah in this? Where's Equality Utah, right? They are Utah's gay group that allegedly is there to protect the LGBTQIAFU++ minus group, right? They said nothing. They did not say anything about this. I can't find a single statement where they came out and condemned Amelia for what she did to this gay man at his job. Nothing, not a word. Complete and utter silence. In fact, the silence is deafening. And so for all of the people out there, you went and you marched with Equality Utah in the Pride Parade. you give them money, you're all protective of Equality Utah. Where the hell were they when a gay man got sexually harassed at work for being gay by an elected Republican official, and they could have gotten her out of office? They didn't protect her. I'm sorry, him. They didn't protect this gay employee. They protected her. And I think what this gets to is that I don't think Equality Utah is really anti-Republican. I actually think they work with establishment Republicans. They're a cover group. They're controlled opposition. That's what Utah is full of. It's controlled opposition. And so, because if I'm conservative. If I had known about this in 2021, I wasn't as politically active back then. Actually, if I had known about this in 2021, I could have said something, but no, none of you would know who I am. So what did it matter at the time? But like, there are prominent gay people who said nothing about this. The only one that I can find that said something is Nathan Ivey, and he actually was okay with it. So I have real issues with that. I mean, if you're going to claim that you are a group here to protect gay rights, and you're out there trying to fight for gays, equality, and helping gays not get discriminated at work, well, when one gets discriminated at work and you hear about it, maybe you should step up and do something. Okay, so let's get to this here. So in here, this is another article that came out. She had been endorsed by a lot of elected officials. And so this reporter, let's see if I can, Daniel Woodruff. Okay, by the way, I appreciate that he did this. He went and he called these people up and said, hey, do you still retain your endorsement of Amelia Powers Gardner? She has been found to have sexually harassed a man for being gay. Does that change anything? Well, here's Mike Lee. Mike Lee endorsed her, and this guy spoke for him, Matt Lusty, who was his campaign manager, said, Senator Lee endorses Amelia Powers Gardner for the Utah County Commission. When allegations were brought forward, Amelia took them seriously. She complied with Utah County Human Resources and incorporated recommendations made within her office. Number one, she did not take them seriously. We just read the thing where she was upset that they were investigating this at all. She was mad. It's not that, like, she didn't take it seriously. And then the way this is written makes it sound like someone else in her office did it. She complied with the Utah County Human Resources and incorporated recommendations made within her office. So what are the recommendations? They're to her own behavior. It wasn't any of her employees. She did it. This is like so bizarrely written. And I gotta say, does this mean that Mike Lee is okay with Republicans sexually harassing men for being gay? Like, is that how I should read this? Is that you're fine with that? You hear about that and you're like, okay, cool. Let's just say that the sexes were switched and it was a man who harassed a woman. Do you think that this would have been Mike Lee's response to that? I do not. I don't think that would have been the response at all. I think he would have pulled the endorsement, and I think this is a problem. Okay, so then here's Representative John Curtis at the time. He also backs Powers Gardner. Weird, right? He's even he's basically like a fake Republican. So you would think at least he would have said, you know what? I support gay people. I'm a fake Republican, and I'm pulling my endorsement. He didn't pull the endorsement. He still supported her. Representative Kira Birkeland kept her endorsement. So Kira Birkeland is all about women, probably mostly white women. White women. You cannot sexually harass a white woman. But then she hears about a white woman sexually harassing a man for being gay, and she's fine with it. No issue. So there's no principle there, right? Because what I'm saying is something different. I'm actually saying there should be no discrimination or harassment in the workplace because of your innate qualities. There is discrimination against people because of their performance. That's different. You're supposed to do that. But when you're talking about things you can't change about yourself, so, I can't change my skin color. So yeah, you shouldn't discriminate against me for my skin color. But I would agree with that no matter what. I don't care about your politics. I don't care if it's a man or a woman or white or black, all of it. You should be protected. This is actually she's making judgments I think, about who gets the protections and who doesn't. Because if this was a man, if Amelia Powers Gardner was a man and had sexually harassed a woman, Kira would be like, yeah, you need to get that person out of office. You need to resign. But when it's the other way around, there's no issue. It's fine. John Dougal also kept his endorsement of her. Crazy, right? Crazy. Like, well, okay, so you're like the state auditor, and now you think it's okay when an elected Republican female sexually harasses a man for being gay? This makes me question your ability to be an auditor. Like, are you making these types of judgments when you're doing investigations of things? Only some harassment rises to the level of needing to be investigated by your office? Maybe. Then there's Vineyard Mayor Julie Fulmer. I have no idea who that lady is. Representative Marsha Judkins. Interestingly, she's actually running for Provo City Mayor, so I may give her a call to find out about this, because what I want to make sure is that if you are running for an office like that and you endorse Amelia, that you can give me assurances that you will not tolerate harassment and discrimination in your workplaces that you will now be running, right? Because if she is Provo mayor, she'll be running all of Provo's services. So their park department, their police department, fire, whatever else they have. I don't know what they have down there, and I just want to make sure, are you okay if one of your political appointees sexually harasses a man for being gay, are you going to approve of it? Are you just gonna say, no biggie, it's all good, guys, it's all good, no worries? And then there's Riverton City Council member Tawny McKay. I will say I've actually reached out to Tawny. I will talk to her about this, and I'll report back what I find out, because I live in Riverton, so it's actually very personal to me at that point, because I want to make sure that we don't get a mayor, because now Trent is not running again, so we have we have 3 people running, but only 2 of them are really serious. And so I just want to make sure that whoever wins, that they're going to make sure that employees are being treated fairly at work, and that if we have an Amelia Powers Gardner somewhere within the Riverton city government, and they do what Amelia did here and sexually harass a male employee for being gay, that the mayor will not tolerate that. Okay, sorry, it's very dry here, just like Utah. So one more thing here. John Dougal. This was his statement. I still endorse Amelia. I believe she has learned an important lesson from this regrettable situation, which will make a stronger leader and better manager. What is he even talking about? She's learned an important lesson. She did it. She did the thing. I feel like the way these statements are worded is to make the normal person think that it's not her that did it, right? Oh yes, the Mr. Producer says Frugal Dougal, he's a bit odd. That is an understatement. He had that ad where he came out from underneath I don't know if you guys remember this. He was running for what was it? Was he running for CD3? I think, to replace Curtis, and he came out against the bill to restrict men from women's locker rooms, but still let them into the bathrooms. And he did that thing where he rolled out from underneath the bathroom stall. It's so weird. Oh man, I did that was when I was doing the weekly rundown, and I actually used that clip because it was so weird. Oh man, Utah politics, I tell you. Okay, anyway, so then what I was going to say here, though, is that's a weird statement to make. It's just like, she did it. It was her own fault. This wasn't a management issue. Sometimes what happens is, like, you're a manager and something bad happens among your employees. And so that is something you can fix as a manager, right? Like, you need to change how you approach things. You need to change your policies. You need to manage differently and grow as a manager. I understand that. But to say this when she's the one that actually did it is a little bit odd. And I think it's meant so that if someone reads this, they don't actually realize that she is the culprit. She's the problem, not the other people in her office. Okay, let's see if I have anything else on this. Okay. Oh, okay. My final thing here is the reason why I figured, like, this is a good way to end Pride Month. It's amazing, like typically for when I'm actually, I'm in the National Guard, and we usually drill the first weekend of the month. So I'm typically there, and I don't really care about pride. So I'm not going to skip it to go to like a pride parade. Okay. So this I thought was kind of interesting. So Russ Rampton, I don't know if he is, well, okay. He's on the GOP State Central Committee. So, and I think he represents part of Utah County. And so he was going back and forth with me about this. I'll just scroll up. Oh, because I had said something, right? I had asked him about this. And what I think is interested is, see, he says this here. She and the employee were able to reconcile. He later endorsed her candidacy for county commissioner, right? And I was like, okay, but I couldn't actually find where either of these things happened. We kind of saw that language in that one article that suggested he didn't want anything to do with the election, but I don't think that's reconciling or an endorsement. And so then I asked him if he condemned her for her actions. And then he said, I am not excusing harassment. I am choosing not to condemn it because that isn't my role. I'm not running for county condemner. The situation was also more nuanced, and I can't share more publicly without identifying the employee, and I won't violate that privacy. So I thought this was weird because on the one hand, he says he endorsed her candidacy for county commissioner, and then on the other hand, he says he doesn't want to disclose the guy's identity. So I was like, which one is it? Either if he endorsed her candidacy, we should all know who the person is, but I don't think he did. I think this is actually maybe dishonest, maybe a lie. I think a lot of times with people that are more establishment, and I think Russ is more establishment, some people just kind of say stuff, not expecting you to follow up and ask more questions about it. And here, I just have more questions about it. Like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Right? How did he endorse her? I don't think he did. So anyway, I've heard that Russ is actually Amelia's brother-in-law, but I don't know if that's true. So, and I didn't ask him about it because I felt like if it was an issue, he would have brought it up. Okay. My next thing I want to talk about, again, if you want to call in at any point in time, feel free to do so. I love hearing from you. You guys are why I do this show. Okay, let me do, okay, let's get, here's this weekend, and actually this is significant for everybody listening. The Molly Hart, before we do that, you are listening to and watching KMMU Main Street Media Utah. We're live on X, Rumble, YouTube, and our website, kmmu.org. Thanks for listening to the Goud Crowd. Give us a call, 385-899-2134. Your lonely call screener is waiting. That'd be a Mr. Producer. Okay. On Saturday, I think, the State Central Committee had a meeting. I am no longer on the State Central Committee. I thought it was a waste of time, but and they actually, oh, sorry, hold on. Hey, quiet. My sister has dogs. They bark a lot. Okay. So what I was saying is that the State Central Committee had a meeting to elect 3 potential replacements for Molly Hart on the Utah State Board of Education. So what happened is that Molly Hart was on the Utah State Board of Education, and she was chosen to be our next, I think it's called Superintendent of Public Instruction. So State Superintendent of Public Instruction. When she took that seat, she had to resign from the Utah State Board of Education, opening up the seat. Molly Hart is a Republican, so now the Republican Party has to replace her. We have kind of a weird system for this because if you notice for like state House and state Senate seats, when somebody resigns, the delegates select the replacements. But for the State Board of Education, the State Central Committee actually selects the replacement. And what they do is they have to nominate 3 people. The 3 people are sent to the governor, and then the governor gets to pick one to put onto the board. I guess I think that's kind of a weird system because it's allowing people from because that district covers a particular area, but the state central committee has people from all over Utah. So they're all getting to decide now who's going to represent this district. Like, it's not even my district. I'm in, I think, Amanda Bollinger's district now, the one where Natalie Klein used to be. So this is like a different district. So I find it a little bit odd. Anyway, but I think the good news here is that they picked 3 conservatives for this to go up for the seat. It's Chris Kimball, Glenn Burton, and Aaron Longacre. And I gotta say, no matter who you pick out of these 3, we win. These are great picks. I can't even think of a negative thing to say about any of them. They're all very conservative, and they'll all do a great job. So kudos to our state central committee for picking such conservative people for the State Board of Education. I mean, 3 of them. And I think there was some fear that they'd end up with at least one more liberal candidate on this thing. So we should be really happy. They did a fantastic job. So I just want to give kudos to State Central Committee. We'll see who Governor Cox picks. I don't know what the timeline is to see that, but really this kind of puts him in a pickle because no matter who he picks, he's got a conservative. And anyone that pays attention to the show knows we do not think Governor Cox is conservative. Okay, so I think that's what I had on that. Oh, okay. So I have this, let's see here. This is the Facebook post that Sophie did about this. I thought there was some interesting conversation that happened lower down. So let's go here. There's been this kind of back and forth going on between, I would say, maybe more establishment figures is the way to put it. I don't know how to describe them. Like John Johnson, Carolyn Phippen. I don't know if they're establishment or they're one kind of group, and then the other group are people who have coined themselves as Lyman Republicans, right? And so they kind of mock the people in this. I'm going to say establishment for lack of a better word. So establishment group. So they were going back and forth because John Johnson, quote, posted Sophie's tweet and was kind of saying that, look, because if you look at her post, it's not tweet, sorry. She said, huge win for Utah's kids today and a huge loss for these steak dinner Republicans. These quote unquote Republicans believed their lies, gaslighting, and selling out tactics would assure that the SCC would not be dominated by Lyman Republicans. They were wrong. Anyway, then she's got a picture of all these guys who endorsed Rob for party chair. And, some of so to be fair about this, I like a lot of these people, and I would say a lot of them are actually pretty conservative. But, it's fine. I think it's fine to have these types of disputes within the family. So you're not going to hear me ever criticize people for having these fights. I think we need to have them. It's good. So Senator Johnson responds, and I'll just say, I actually reached out to him. He wasn't able to come on tonight. I'll try to have him on in the next couple of weeks because I think there's a good discussion to be had here about the way forward in terms of trying to figure out where do we go from here. Because I think the party actually is pretty evenly split. At the state convention, we ended up at 52-48, I think, if I remember that right, between Rob Axon and Phil Lyman. So that's pretty close. And it's not really beneficial for either side to completely alienate the other side, right? We do have to find ways to work together. But there's something in here that kind of bothered me a little bit. And I think some of this is that people like Senator Johnson are feeling like maybe sometimes they're getting attacked on a purity test, which, maybe there might be some fairness to that. What I thought was interesting, though, is this. He said, let's review the record. Your allies filed lawsuits. They all lost. That's where I got a little bit bothered, is the lawsuit issue. And then if you go here, okay. So if your movement can't win in court, can't work in coalition, and can't tolerate disagreement, then maybe it's not a movement at all. Okay, so here's where my issue is, right? We did have this election in 2024 I think it's pretty clear that Governor Cox did not have the signatures he needed to get onto the primary ballot, right? And I think that's actually a big problem that happened. It showed that it really doesn't, what the laws you put in place don't matter, because it's about who controls the election mechanisms and the election machinery. And that should, by the way, for all of you out there who don't think your county clerks are important, take heed. That's exactly why those positions are so important. That's why the Democrats and the establishment Republicans want a Democrat to be in charge of Salt Lake County's clerk's office. It's because it's about being in charge of the machinery of the elections. It helps you be able to win elections. So in the case of the signatures, right, they were able to put themselves onto the Republican primary ballot, even though they didn't collect 28,000 signatures like they were supposed to and required to by law. The courts are never going to be the solution to that. We've already seen this happen in the 2020 election with Trump. That was exactly the issue. It's not that the cases had no merit. That's not right. It's that the courts they have people that they're humans, right? And a lot of these judges are actually massive cowards. So they're not going to take cases if they think it's going to be dangerous to them. That's just the reality of it. And they probably thought at the time, I think, that it would be dangerous to take on an election integrity case and rule against what was clearly being pushed by the media, by people in power to get Trump out of office. And I don't want to go, look, I actually think it's good that Trump lost in 2020. We have a much better version of Trump now than we would have had he continued with the second term. So I'm good. But it shows you there's not a way to fix election issues through the courts. Another example is the Kerry Lake election in 22, the governor's race. That they cheated down there. If you just go look at the things they were doing, mail ballots being sent all over, like, it's that there's no chain of custody on the ballots they were counting. You can go and read the cases and you can see that there's major problems with how they're running the election and the machines being shut down. So suddenly all the machines go out for in-person voting that Kerry Lake and her campaign had been encouraging people to do. Of course, that's done on purpose. And you shouldn't, and what they'll say is, oh, Goud, how dare you question the motives of these true public servants who never do anything bad? Yeah, I'm going to question them, because it seems kind of weird that if you're working in a clerk's office, your primary responsibility is to run elections and to run them smoothly with no problems. That's your primary duty. You have these other things that go on, like you give out marriage licenses. Okay, well, that's not hard. It's easy. And then you take notes or what at the county clerk, at the county council in Salt Lake County. Those are your main duties. That's it. These are easy, simple, not hard to do. And so what you can see is that but you can't go fix those issues through the courts. There's just not a good mechanism. And so I feel like here, a question I want to ask Senator Johnson, though, is do you think that the complaints about how the 24 election were run are legitimate? And if you think that they're legitimate, what are you doing to change it? Because right now, what I'm seeing online is a lot of people who just want to move on as if it's not a big deal without actually going back and fixing the problem. And I understand, look, we have a little bit of it's going to be hard to do because obviously Governor Cox is the one who cheated. I'll just say it. So he's not going to sign any legislation to make it harder to cheat, because the reality is in 2028, Lieutenant Governor Henderson wants to run for office. And so I'm sure that if she has to cheat to get there, she'll do it. She's already proven she will. She has no shame. I mean, it's gross if you think about it. Like, I don't know how, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be around someone like that. That's so gross and disgusting. Like, ew. No morals, no ethics. I don't like people like that. I don't want them in my life. And I just, yuck. But I just wonder, like, do you think it's legitimate? And if those complaints being made by people about the election system are legitimate, what are you doing to address them? Shouldn't we address them? And shouldn't we do something to make it so it's not possible in the future? And even if it doesn't pass, we need legislation that would at least address it so we can show who's not going to support it and get them out of office in the future. I'm totally for doing things like that. I think that's the way forward. I think just brushing it off is not going to work, because here's the thing. And I think a lot of these kind of the guys that want to move on, the party chairs need to understand this. There's a lot of people that have been turned off by the way the Republican Party is operating. Those are your people, if you want to win elections, that you're going to need to get out there and knock on doors and convince other people to vote Republican. If they decide not to come because you're not addressing their concerns, let me know how you plan on winning elections, because I don't think you're going to be able to do it. I think this is especially the case in Salt Lake County, where we're already at a massive disadvantage, and we struggle to win races here, right? And I think in 2026, right, next year, I think it's going to be a big challenge. And I've heard from people that are in elected office that are terrified of what's going to happen on the west side of Salt Lake County in 2026. And they think that there's a real risk because of that referendum. I think it's a referendum on that union bill that was passed, that there's going to be a huge turnout. It's going to favor the Democrats, and a lot of even our state legislators, state senators, school board members, like this type of stuff are going to get wiped out, the Republican ones on the west side of Salt Lake County, which is really bad because that has tended to be a little bit more conservative than the East Bench, or the East Bench is where all the wealthy liberal white people live. And the west side is where you have your more kind of working people. So, okay. So that was kind of my thinking. I just thought that was very interesting. And I don't know what the answer is in terms of how do we move forward from here. I'd like to have the conversation with as many people as possible, because we have to figure out how to bring the party back together. But I don't think it happens by brushing people off and by not addressing the issue. The issue is that the governor cheated. I understand we can't get rid of him now. Fine. But what are we doing to prevent this from happening again in the future? That's the question. And I would love to hear, if you want to call in. We could talk about it. 385-899-2134. Okay. Now, this issue is like, woof, this one gets me worked up. So, my computer just went all weird. I'll tell you something, people. I know I've told you about my computer issues before. I am very close to buying a new computer. I am so close. Maybe by next show I'll have a new computer. We'll see. I just have to take some time and go to the store. Although the thing now is I'm in California and their sales tax is like really high. So I'm debating, do I just go bite the bullet and spend it'll probably be an extra like 30 or 40 bucks. Do I just go do it and just buy the computer while I'm here? Or do I wait until I get back to Utah? I don't know. Very confused. Okay, today there was a report that came out saying that in 2024, 18% of homes in Utah were purchased by investors. When I ran for the State House in 2024, this was actually an issue I raised. And because one of the things I learned on the campaign trail is a lot of people are concerned about their children's ability to be able to stay in Utah, to be able to move back close to their parents. And I understand this because I think a lot of you guys, if you listen to me regularly, I don't have kids. And so, and I'm single and I'm gay. So anyways, okay, now that all of that's out there. A big issue though for people is your ability to have your children live close to you. And a lot of people here have a lot of kids. Like a few weeks ago, my neighbors in the local ward, they asked me to be part of this career fair they were doing. And so they went to 4 different people's homes. I was one of them. And I talked about my careers, right? So I'm a lawyer, I'm a JAG in the National Guard. And then I do political stuff. So I've got kind of these 3 buckets of things I do. But one of the interesting parts was talking to people about how many children that they have. And everybody in my neighborhood, it's like 4 to 6 kids, right? That's a lot of kids. And it's great. I think it's really cool. but they're all going to be concerned about their children's ability to buy a place and move close to them, because I assume that those 4 to 6 kids that you have will probably each have hopefully 4 to 6 kids themselves. And so you want to be able to spend time with your grandchildren, be able to take care of them. I assume you want to see them as much as possible, see your kids as much as possible. Well, what do you do if they can't move back because it's too expensive here? How do we handle that? And so when I ran for State House in 2024, I put out a proposal saying that I want to ban hedge funds and investment groups from buying homes in Utah. Now, I want to add, you would need to do some deep dives to figure out how to actually make a bill like that work, right? And as a legislator, you'd have the resources to do it, because a lot of times these groups don't actually buy the homes in their name. So BlackRock is not going around buying homes under the BlackRock name. They'll have front groups, front companies, front individuals that will be involved in doing it to mask their involvement. It's the same thing with China. You hear a lot about, well, China owns all this land in Utah. And if you say this to Candace Perucci, she'll tell you that she passed a bill, I think in 2023, that bans China, quote unquote China, from owning land in Utah. And if they have land, they actually were supposed to have divested it by May 1st, I think, of 2025. She will not answer any questions about the status of that, but the point is, I don't actually think that they did the deep dive necessary to figure out how China is masking its ownership in property in Utah. You need to know that in order to be able to control it. So we have this, but going back to my point here is that, so if you want to be able to ban hedge funds and other investment groups from buying homes, you have to do some due diligence to understand how they buy the homes so that you can tackle it without doing any damage to the people you're trying to help, right? That you want to be able to buy homes. So Utah actually came out at, I think it's number 4 here, as the fourth. So it's Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, and then Utah is number 4. 18% of homes in 2024 were purchased by investors. So it's actually, this list was interesting because it's Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, Utah. This was the top 10. Georgia, Montana, Mississippi, Wyoming, Indiana, and Alabama. I saw this list and I thought, man, that's a bizarre list. It just seems weird to me that they'd be buying there and not in places like California, where, like typically these investors might want to live, or New York, like places that they're more likely to live. But it turns out this person said the thing that almost all of these states have in common is relatively low prices. And that's why investors are snapping up properties. That means that investors can get good deals on existing properties, especially residential ones. With home ownership being harder and harder to achieve, more people are being forced to rent to make ends meet, and these investors are cashing in. So nationwide, 13% of homes sold last year were bought up by an investor. And so in Utah, what was it, 18? And so in Utah, it's 18%. So it's 5% higher than the national average. Now, there's a piece in here I thought that was interesting. Oh, okay. In what was labeled a slightly troubling sign, the site pointed out that all cash investor sales have hit the lowest level since 2008. Still, more than 60% of investor sales are cash only, compared to about a third of all sales. So one thing is, I think sometimes people don't understand the advantage that investors have over your children, right? So cash is one advantage. I would assume that a lot of kids in Utah tend to get married a little bit younger. So I would probably, I think, early 20s typically. And so when they buy their first home, I don't think that they're paying cash for that home. And so that when you're going to make an offer on a house, if you have a cash and a non-cash offer, the cash offer is the one that is going to be more enticing to the typical homeowner. So that gives them an advantage over your kids. And just so people understand, these investment groups actually have access to cheaper capital than you or your kids do. And that's part of the problem here, is that they are not competing on a level playing field with your children. They actually have access to cheaper capital. And so they can actually beat your children out to be able to buy places. And that's why I see a problem here. The other thing is this. Earlier this month, Realtor.com reported that a typical investor paid $282,000 for a home, more than $70,000 less than the national median sales price. The numbers show investors gravitate toward the most affordable markets and are drawn to cheaper properties. So think about it this way. In addition to the fact that 60% of investor purchases are done with cash, compared to a third of all sales, and those all sales, the third that are cash, are more likely to be older people who are established. The investors are going for cheaper properties on the market. Those are the properties that your children would buy. So they're competing against your children to buy homes near you, and they're making it less likely that your kids will be able to afford to live here. So I would say to all of you, I think we need to ban hedge funds and investment groups from buying single family homes. And, interestingly enough, there was actually a bill. Let's see if we can, I think it's here. And I want to give credit where credit's due. But Galen Benyon, who's a Democrat, proposed a bill, HB 151 last year, that would require buyers of single-family homes in Salt Lake County to sign an affidavit saying they intend to live there for at least a year if the purchase is made within the first 30 days the property is on the market. She also had something that's saying that the requirement could be avoided if sellers have an exigent circumstance related to financial difficulties. So when I was running for State House and I made my proposal, I was only able to find Democrats who had proposed to ban hedge funds from buying homes they did it in Congress, so the National Congress. And then here we have a local Democrat doing it. And I think this is actually good policy, because as someone who lives in a neighborhood of single family homes, I don't really want investors coming and buying the homes in my neighborhood. I would prefer that when someone puts their home on the market, that a family or a person that's going to live in it comes in there, because that's what makes the community so nice. Is it is a stable community, mainly filled with homeowners. And it is different than when you live in a place that's mainly filled with renters. So I would just say that we should be looking for good policy no matter where it is, whoever proposes it. Because even though the Democrats overall are completely crazy, they do have some good policies, and this is one of them. So, we should recognize it when it's there. And this is more, I think what this policy gets to, though, is grassroots people. You see, your elected officials are a lot of times busy trying to appease their donors. And their donors are not normal, everyday people like you and me. They are rich people who probably are the investors buying the starter homes, the quote unquote starter homes, and competing against your kids. So that's where the elected officials might be. And that's why I think Representative Benyon's bill failed. But I think this is good policy. Something like this would be good policy to have in Utah, so that we can make sure that the homes that are here and that are being built are actually available to families and to people that actually want to live there, and not just investors. But on that, just of note, we should also be deporting all the illegal aliens, because they're filling homes that could go to your kids as well. And when they're gone, that's housing for your children. But that's a totally different issue. But I think this is good policy, something we should be looking at. And I had just on that, one more thing is a guy actually responded. I posted about it today, and he responded and said, "Oh, well, why should if I put my house on the market and I get a bid from an investor that's higher than anyone else's bid, why shouldn't I be able to take it?" And that's just making the purely economic argument, which I understand, because from his perspective, I guess he's leaving the community. Why he doesn't care what it looks like after he leaves. But I think we have to think about this more broadly. And what do we want homeownership to be about? What do we want our neighborhoods to be about? For me, I actually think we want people to move into homes that actually want to live there. There's a lot, what makes Utah a nice place to live is that a lot of these neighborhoods are filled with homeowners, and they've been there a long time. I live in Riverton. I think most of my neighbors have actually been there since the homes were built in the early 2000s, which is wild to me because I'm actually the same age as a lot of them, but I've moved around a ton. That's just been how my life has been, but they've all lived in the same place, which I think is really cool and a nice neighborhood. You know, it's quiet, it's safe, people know each other. You know, there's not anything, I guess that maybe some people think that's a bad thing, but I like it. Anyway, so that's my, and then the other thing I would say is this, it's that unfair competition piece. So while that guy can get a higher price from the investor, I think I look at it more as, is that really a free market if someone is getting unfair advantages because they're getting access to cheaper capital that's not available to regular people? I would say no, and that guy might disagree, but I think that the sacrifice of maybe slightly lower prices is worth it for that longer term benefit, and again, for people that want to be able to have their kids live in their neighborhoods. Okay, let's see what we got next here. Quiet. Okay, next, let's talk about the bombing. Should we talk about that next? Oh, should we see if we have any comments? I don't see any comments, I don't think. Let's see. I don't see any comments. You know, if you're listening, you want to leave a comment, that's fun too. I'll read them out loud as long as they're clean. So I don't want to make any promises I can't keep. Okay, let's talk about next. Oh, here, okay, here's what I got. I thought this, okay, we'll do a little bit. Mr. Producer, I'm going to send you this. We won't play it yet, but I've got I want to show people this. I think it's entertaining. We'll do this in a few minutes. Okay, hold on. Let me check my phone real quick. Yes. Hold on, someone has asked me for the number to call in. I don't know how this is gonna go. Okay. Let's see. Sorry, just give me a second here, everybody. I'm just giving people updates about the phone number in case they forgot. Okay, now let's talk about I'm so confused. Okay, I want to talk about this. I thought this was interesting. So I think a lot of you guys know I grew up in Illinois, right? It is a super majority Democrat state. So it's the exact opposite of Utah. The Republican Party there has been completely defenestrated. When I grew up there, I would say it was probably more of a swingy state, you know. Okay, let's do that. We'll play this video first. Yeah, Mr. Producer, play the video. You'll see, I wanted to play this because I thought it was kind of interesting. It's out of New York. Here, let's watch it.
Because I think that New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, we've adopted different speaking accents in different scenarios.
But they go to their local bodega.
Is there one that's real and one that's affected?
What I would say is, as any immigrant knows, having been born in Kampala, Uganda, and then raised in South Africa and moving here when I'm 7 years old, is there are different parts of my life.
A worldwide tour is a worldwide tour is a worldwide tour.
Hey.
Mamdani was talking about a worldwide press tour back when he was a rapper.
Bring the flavor to the fish, bring the flavor to the rice.
In a Disney movie directed by his mother.
Nepotism and hard work goes a long way. Here in New York City, this is how I speak, this is how I am.
Do you believe in the First Amendment, Tom Homan?
Because I think that New Yorkers, more than they hate a politician they disagree with, they hate a politician they can't trust.
On the subject of trust, you've adopted different speaking accents.
Okay, Mr. Producer, we can stop that. Okay, so that guy's running for mayor of New York City. He's running for the Democratic nomination, and he's running against Andrew Cuomo. I just thought that video was really fascinating because his videos pop up in my X feed. I think he's extremely charismatic. But I was thinking the other day, I was like, God, he comes off like an actor. I just think he's an actor. And then I saw this today, and I was like, oh, he's totally an actor. That makes so much more sense now. What I think is fascinating, though, is that he's actually originally from Uganda. And there was a very large Indian population in Uganda. So they had, when it was British, they had immigrated from India to Uganda. And then they got kicked out by Idi Amin. And like they were the business people of the country. They all of them got kicked out. I knew some people. I've met people over the years who were a product of that. They came to the U.S. I think they went to South Africa, things like that. But it'll be interesting to see where New York ends up, because I think that guy is a little bit of a communist. He had a video talking about how he wants to set up government-run grocery stores. And one of the things he said is that they will not have to pay taxes or rent, and they'll pass those savings along to the people. Well, I just feel like, that's not really a market economy at that point. And how are like regular grocery stores supposed to compete with that? If you think that they shouldn't have to pay taxes or rent, then you should also offer that to the private grocery stores as well, right? It just seems odd that you would only offer that to the government ones. Also, like, who wants a government-run grocery store? It just sounds horrible to me. Can you imagine what that looks like? I guess we have those government-run liquor stores in Utah, but I don't feel like that's what they're going to look like in New York. Yeah, Utah, we have very nice liquor stores. Not that I've ever been. Okay, anyway, so I grew up in Illinois, and I thought it's a supermajority Democrat state. We are a supermajority Republican state. And our Republican officials are always talking about how well run we are, how perfect everything is in Utah. Don't ask any questions, don't question people, don't say anything bad about people, don't disagree with people, only disagree better, blah, blah, blah. Well, what was fascinating is that Illinois passed its budget just recently. And one of the things that came out is that their total budget for this year is $55.2 billion. Utah's budget is $30.8 billion. On a population basis, Illinois has 12.71 million people. Utah has about 3.3 million, I think. Where I thought this was interesting is on the per capita spending level. So the state government in Utah is spending $8,789.95 per person. Illinois is spending at the state level $4,343 per person. We spend, I think, 102% more than Illinois on a per capita basis. And I'm just wondering why. Why are we spending so much more per capita than a supermajority Democrat state? And can you imagine if we were more in line at the state level with what Illinois is spending? Our taxes could drop more. In fact, they could drop by half, which would be good because our tax burden is very high. And this doesn't even count all the other spending that happens, right? Someone texted me after they saw my post, and they were like, well, on top of what you wrote on there, there's also Salt Lake County's budget. If you live in Salt Lake County, of $2 billion. If you live in Salt Lake City, I think they have another $2 billion budget. I mean, they're spending massive amounts of money at every level of government in the state. And I think a lot of it, honestly, is being wasted. If you look at one of the things I was thinking about is just homelessness. We spend more and more money on homelessness. And maybe we'll talk more detail about this at some point. And the number of homeless people just keeps going up in Utah. Just up. It doesn't really seem to make a difference, which makes you wonder what we're spending the money on, right? It's kind of a problem. And I think if you look throughout government, you'll find all sorts of inefficiencies if we actually put the effort in and did it. So that's something for people to think about is, why do you think a supermajority Republican legislature is spending so much more per capita than a supermajority Democrat legislature. And when I say Democrat, I mean the Illinois is crazy. They are nuts. They support all the trans agenda stuff. So they're sterilizing and mutilating little kids over there. We had Brandy, my friend, on maybe like a month ago. I remember her daughter had to compete against a boy in a track in track sports. Turns out I was reading somewhere that same district also has a boy on like the cheerleading squad. There's all sorts of not a boy pretending to be a girl in the cheerleading squad. So it's fine to have a boy in the cheerleading squad. It's different. Mr. Producer says if you spend money on it, you'll get more of it. I think that's actually true. So he also says Chicago is a sanctuary city, but then so is Salt Lake City. That is accurate. Actually, I think Salt Lake County is one too. And I say this because I had this, I have two cars, and one of them failed the emissions test. And so I was like, do I want to spend money on this? I don't think so. I had just started my law practice. And so I found that Salt Lake County actually has a program to help you pay for these car repairs if you don't make enough money, whatever the number is, right? At the time this happened, though, I had just been fired from Lucid, and I had just started my law practice. So I was kind of like, I don't know, how do I say what my income is? Like at Lucid, it was fine, and that'll taint all of 2023. But in my practice, I'm not really bringing in any money. So, and what was fascinating is the form that they gave me does not ask you your legal status in the US. Like, are you here legally? So I think they give the money even to illegal aliens, which to me is a sanctuary policy. If you're an illegal alien and your car breaks down, that's on you. Like, you should pay for it. And if you can't, you should go home. Just leave. Problem solved. We don't want you here. Okay. Now let's talk about Iran. And just again, you're listening to the Goud Crowd. You're listening to and watching KMMU Main Street Media Utah. We're live on X, Rumble, YouTube, and our website, kmmu.org. Thanks for listening to the Goud Crowd. Give us a call at 385-899-2134. Your lonely call screener is waiting. Let's see. I know that's a good question. Where are my callers? How come no one's called in? Call in. Hold on, I'm getting another text message. Okay, so let's talk about Iran. I actually think this is an interesting topic. So let me just say this. Number one is I am glad that President Trump was president when all of this happened, because I've never worried about him in terms of wanting to get us into a new forever war. It's all the people around him that I worry about, and not his, like, not Pete Hegseth and stuff like that. I worry about Lindsey Graham, all the rhinos in Utah who are pro-war. So Andy Perucci and Governor Cox and all these Jeff Stenquist. It's another weirdo. Jeff Stenquist is constantly promoting like the Ukraine war because he said he adopted, I guess, 2 of his kids from Ukraine, but he doesn't actually want to fight it. He just wants other people's kids to go and fight the war, and because that's how much he cares about Ukraine. It's all fake. But the point being is, I think I am glad that we had President Trump in office when this all happened. I think when you look at what happened on Saturday, it was operationally impressive, right? The secrecy around it was just awesome and just well executed. And then now, just as the show, we have a call. We put her through. Let's see here.
Tracy, can you hear us?
I can hear you now.
Go ahead. Goud, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Hey, Tracy, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Tell us, what are you calling about today?
Well, you can go ahead and finish what you're saying. I didn't mean to interrupt what you were talking about.
Oh, no, you're good, because I'm going to talk about Iran and then how President Trump just announced before the show went on that there's a ceasefire that's going into effect between Iran and Israel. So it's good news. It's all good news.
Yeah, that is good news.
But very, I'm very happy. Okay, but go.
Scary.
What do you have
It
to
was
say?
scary. Oh, I was calling in to, I think you and I were talking about it the other day about how you unite the party, and people are asking how do you unite it. And honestly, I don't think you can unite it until the harm has been resolved, because there have been people damaged and harmed in the process. I mean, they've left us with a system that is vulnerable to fraud, and they're okay with it because they get their preferred candidates in. And I don't know if you saw the latest Illinois. I think I sent it to you. The Michigan Michael Madigan. He is the Speaker of the House in Illinois, and he got in trouble for, giving. He was running the government like his own preferred empire, and that's what's happening in Utah. They're running the government like it's their own business, and they are giving their preferred candidates and the preferred people special treatment, and giving these $1 million contracts to certain individuals. Like the latest one is now they're going to come out and they're going to say, there's an initiative coming to legalize marijuana. Well, that's not an initiative. That is a lobbyist coming to you and telling you that is what's going to happen. And I said, and it's just setting the stage for you guys to put in some kind of system where you're going to receive, the state's either going to receive a ton of money, where you're going to unconstitutionally control it. And they send out these surveys, and I'm like, that survey is a lobbyist putting out that survey, and we're paying for the survey because it's through the U of U. Yeah. And so I'm saying it's the same thing that's happening in Illinois. When you were talking about that earlier, that same thing's happening in Utah. And so when you say, can we ever unite the party? No, because that's like when somebody harms you, asking them, let's join together. It's almost like when the illegal immigrants come in, they came in here illegally, and then asking to join with them. So it's like it won't ever again.
No, get out. That's why the answer is get out.
It's get out. And
let me ask you about that.
Okay.
Well, okay. We'll talk more. I guess this is my theory, but it sounds like you'll disagree, is I think this goes back to how Governor Cox was able to get onto the Utah Republican Party primary ballot, even though he didn't have the number of signatures required. I think that's definitive at this point. So if they address that, would that change your mind about how you feel in terms of being able to unite with the different factions of the party?
No, because, and I'll tell you why. Because I know that the signature gathering process did not even apply. So they have left us. So back in 2000 and 15 and 16, SB 54 was repealed. And they have left us with this governor now that is passing terrible bills and hurting us and harming us. And so, no, I don't think so. It will ever fix it, because I sent them a notice and told them exactly what he was doing to break the law. If a law is unconstitutional, it's null and void. So they had the opportunity. Rob had the opportunity to stop what was happening, and they caused the harm. So no, I don't think it will ever be until someone sues and gets damages, because what they did was they took our First and 14th Amendment right and our right to a representative form of government, and they've left us with this system that is weak and vulnerable to fraud. I mean, we don't even know if he even qualified for the signature, so we don't even have a representative. So that's the kind of system you guys are going to leave us with. First of all, it doesn't exist. He's misapplying the law, and he broke the law. Until he goes to jail and until Deidre goes to jail, I don't think anybody will be satisfied, because they broke the law.
But then do you see, if you're like a Senator John Johnson, and I had talked about Senator Johnson earlier, because he, Sophie had posted this Facebook post where she talked about what happened at the SCC and the steak dinner Republicans. And John had responded to it and said, the problem with you guys is you're making it difficult to unite the party because you're making purity tests. And because what you're saying is that there's just no reconciliation that can happen. But then how do you talk to somebody, like talk about how you would discuss this with John
Department of Justice. You go to the Department of Justice and you tell them exactly what happened, how they stole our election, how SB 54 created a primary jungle system in 2014. It was repealed in 2015 and 16. And Spencer Cox is an attorney, and he should have known better that he could not usurp his ministerial duty and place signature gatherers on that ballot.
Okay.
He did it because Count My Vote is the one that was pushing that narrative. So he actually just continues on to give Count My Vote what they wanted. And that's all the oligarchs in Utah. You think about it, it's the $1 billion stadiums that get passed. It's Michael Levitt, who gets $1 million contracts from these other, from the COVID. He got over $1 million. So they're just, they're treating this like it's their business, and it's not. And so when John Johnson comes to me and says, you have to kiss my butt in order for me to protect your constitutional rights, what the heck kind of system do we have?
Okay, I don't know if that's what he's saying, but I've asked him to come on the show. He couldn't come today because it's like he had a family thing going on. But I'll try to have him on because I'm curious what his response will be. I just want to ask you about the marijuana.
That's what he said to me. He said, you have to be nice to me in order for me to fix things. Wait, what? No, I don't have to be nice to you. You swore an oath to protect my constitutional rights, and you refused to do it.
Interesting. Okay.
That's not how this system works. It's not trading. It's not trading horses. You have a job, and when you sell it, you actually violate an it's administration. If people go and look at the criminal code under the government administration, you'll see how every one of them are violating that criminal code. And it's just like when you and I talked earlier about Spencer using that still to denounce Natalie Klein. He committed a third-degree felony, but no one did anything. And so they think that you have to kiss their butts in order to get policy pushed. I said, no, I don't. I'll just go to the Department of Justice and have charges filed because I'm kind of sick of it. And that's what happened in Illinois. And somebody reminded me once that, I think it was Casey, he reminded me, he said, you know what Obama said once, Tracy? You can do anything you want as long as you're in government and no one ever stops you.
Yeah.
And that's what they
the Michael Madigan thing, I was just going to say the Michael Madigan piece actually fits with the pattern out of Illinois. I think I've talked about this before, but growing up, the governors, like both parties, used to go to jail at the end of their terms. So the fact, when I saw that headline, it didn't even faze me. I was like, I think some things never change.
Well, and that's exactly what's happening here. Everybody just, it goes from lieutenant governor, and you just step up, and then the lieutenant governor becomes the governor. The lieutenant governor becomes, it's a cycle. I mean, you can actually watch it here. And the reason why is they have to have certain individuals in positions to pass their agenda, to pass the bills that give them the ability to create their own governments and able to tax people so they can build out their houses. I mean, that public infrastructure district, that inland port, that's unlawful and illegal. And then they go and created their own bank. So they have to have these certain individuals that will go along with the flow. And John Johnson is one of them. And so that's why he's acting like a king and saying, you have to be nice to me in order for me to protect your constitutional rights. And, you know, I watched that Facebook post with him. And, you know, Kim Coleman got on there and she was like, well, I'm a steak dinner Republican. So everybody come on this day to my house and have steak. Well, she doesn't realize that when when I took that notice of intent to stop the fraud that was happening, and she filled out a police report and she lied in it. So she furthered the scheme to make sure Spencer Cox got into that office. And then she goes ahead and puts that steak dinner on there. I'm like, she's in trouble. She doesn't even realize it. Like, I'm like, are you all stupid? This isn't a game. There's laws that were broken, and you guys think this is funny. And I mean, I think Utah is going to get the biggest wake-up call that they ever had in their entire life. I mean, when you create a counterfeit ballot and then you put it in the mail, and remember, those ballots cross state lines. They went into
that's right. They went to like Nevada and stuff.
Yeah, so that's mail fraud. So they're really, really stupid.
What I was gonna say is you brought up the marijuana legalization issue. I thought that was interesting. I didn't realize there's a push for it to do an initiative on it, because I had seen that survey that came out. It said like 53% of Utahns are actually pro legalizing marijuana for recreational use. And I saw that and I was like, oh man, you're being totally misled. There's nothing good that comes of that. Nothing. Like, if you've ever lived somewhere where marijuana is legalized, it's all bad. It's just so bad.
But that's my whole point. That survey, if you can watch the pattern every time, every time they put out surveys, look at this survey and look at this survey. And look at this survey. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. It's them setting the stage to say, well, this is what was wanted, but it's really the lobbyists pushing it for their people and the billionaires that are going to make money off it. It's $1 billion industry. And so they're not going to be essentially legalized. It's going to be able to help these lobbyist clients earn money off it. That's what it's for.
Oh, totally. If they do it, Tracy, we should open a marijuana shop. We should go get a license.
No, you know what they'll do? They'll probably set it up like the unconstitutional state liquor stores. And you heard about that where Tina Cannon uncovered that they were embezzling $1 billion or $1 million or something like that. So that's what they'll do. I'm like, you guys are just setting the stage for it. I can see it. Well, it wouldn't be able to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
John, I can't wait to hear John Johnson's reasoning why he thinks that we have to be nice to him in order to get things passed.
All right. Well, hopefully I can get him on next week, and we'll follow on that. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, here's Mr. Producer says, the streets of LA reek of weed. It was a bad idea, except for the pot sellers. That is very true. I'm in San Diego. I'm in the suburbs, so it's not really an issue out here, but I have been to plenty of places where there is marijuana everywhere. I used to live in DC. I can't remember if they legalized it or if they just decriminalized it, but it used to smell like pot everywhere. Everywhere you would go. It was horrible. And, like I said, I'm in the Guard, so you actually get regularly drug tested. So stuff like that kind of freaks me out a little bit. But there's nothing good that comes of it. recreational use. I don't really care about this medicinal use, except I do think it's open to a lot of abuse because initially when it started in California, I had friends that would come out and they'd go get the card. They'd be here for vacation. And the guy would be like, oh, do you have one of these symptoms? Do you have a cough? Do you have a headache? Do you have any thoughts that are bad? Oh, here's your medical marijuana card. And they would just get it. So it's totally a scam, right? But at least it's some sort of control on it. When you just do it recreationally, I just don't think it turns out well. You'll regret it very quickly. And if anybody wants to call in and talk about how they either you like it, or you think marijuana should be legalized recreationally in Utah, call in. I'd love to hear it. Because, like I said, I am adamantly opposed to it. So if there's an initiative, I will vote against it. And I will not sign that initiative either. Okay. So we're talking about Iran. Again, you're listening to the Goud Crowd. If you want to call in, feel free to call in. It's 385-899-2134. I think, anyway, what I was saying, though, is, this is final piece here. I was going to post this. Hold on. Yeah, just before we came on live, Trump actually announced that there's been a ceasefire. So he said, congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions. I don't know what that means, but for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire. And upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war will be saluted to the world. During each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful. On the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will, I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world. So, I'll just say thank you to Mr. President. I actually, my fear on stuff like this is just we've been in so many of these endless wars that have gone on forever. Oh, we have a caller. Yeah, put him through. And I just there's nothing that makes me want to go into another forever war. So I'm glad he handled that. Okay. Let's see, who do we have? Mr. Producer, did you unmute him? Here. Okay. Well, I'll keep talking. I thought there were a few lessons, though, from this entire little thing. We'll wait for, I think Alex is on, but I'm not hearing anything. Hold on.
There, how's that? I just had to unmute.
Now we hear you.
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, well, first of all, I heard you complaining about nobody wanting to call into your show, and I told you weeks ago that's because you keep on running your mouth about this transgender crap. Nobody wants to hear that. And that's to start a free life tip just for you. And we're on the subject, that Randy girl, the transgender one who likes kick sports, you know what I'm talking about? She cannot be trusted. She owes me a tremendous amount of money. And they're opinions, so I can't talk about it on the show.
Okay.
And then, so I want to talk about this Israeli business. First of all, those people don't honor, and by those people I mean the Netanyahu administration, not Jews. Israel doesn't honor ceasefires. I think we all know that.
They what?
They don't honor ceasefires. Every country they've ever had a ceasefire with, they've broken it.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens. I mean,
wow, that's a chilling insight. Did you see that Netanyahu statement on Donald Trump congratulating our president?
On him congratulating. Yeah, I saw that.
What do you think about that?
I mean, it was a little bit weird to me because to me, I just want to I want to know what my president thinks about things. So I want our decisions to be made because they're in America's interests. So it's a little bit odd when a foreign leader is congratulating our president for doing something because I don't know all of what happened in the background, right? So it's a little bit strange.
Congratulations to me. They just usually come to like a reward of some kind. I thought that was very strange. Like, why are you congratulating a president in a country you don't even live in? That didn't make any sense to me.
I guess, yeah. I didn't think of it that way.
Because I saw that you were just reading that tweet that the president sent on whatever he's on,
Yeah.
Wave Sky, I think it's called.
Yeah, it's a good tweet.
Why does he keep that?
I'll put it back up.
To this matter at the end of his tweets. Does he have like a background in HR? Do you know?
Wait, what? What did you say?
He keeps writing, "Thank you for your attention to this matter" at the end of these important tweets that he's sending out. And I'm
no, he didn't. That's not on this tweet. That's not on this tweet.
It was on that one where he said he was going to kill that Iranian leader.
Right. Yeah, I know. I don't know. It's. I don't know where he came up with that statement. I think it's kind of funny, but.
I think he's probably.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Producer says he did say that on his earlier tweet.
Yeah, and I think he's probably read that line at the end of a lot of emails from his HR department. You think that?
Maybe. Okay, do you have anything else for today, Alex?
No. I just want to give you one thing before I go, okay? I just want to give you some good news. So, I don't know if you heard yet, because it's been in the papers, but I'm going to be a radio host, just like you. Have you heard that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, we're going to be on the same. We're going to be on the same network. Your producer just told me it'll be pre-recorded, but it's supposed to air like 5 to 7. I think she said on Mondays. What time does your show air? This is pre-recorded, right?
No, it is not. Oh my God. Okay. Well, you keep us updated on your show.
I'm very busy. I just want to call in with my expertise. So I'll talk to you next week, all right? Tell your mom and them I said hello.
Thanks. Okay, I guess it's a comic relief for today. Okay, so as I was saying, we have the announcing of the ceasefire. And this was kind of my thing here is like, I am really glad that we had Trump as president because I actually don't think Trump wants to get into another forever war. And it's a total distraction from why he was elected to office. Americans have been just, I think upset because so many people do not actually in elected office don't actually address our needs. They don't pay attention to our country. Especially at the national level, they're constantly focused on what's going on overseas. So whether it was Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria, now Iran, they're always seem to be looking for foreign adventures while our country falls apart at home. And so I think I am hopeful that Trump, and looking at the ceasefire, it looks like he totally is on board with it, that we don't need a distraction of a foreign war. Nobody elected Trump to go to war overseas. And I will say, it looks like he probably solved the problem. I don't know, hopefully. Because I've also seen some reporting that they moved their nuclear materials and things like that. So I don't know that it's clear yet. I did want to say, though, I think there's a couple lessons to be learned from what happened over the last week, right? If you think about it, a week ago, we were not really talking about Iran and potential military action. And then we started getting riled up into it, right? And so I think one thing that I learned is that I don't think people have learned yet how to spot propaganda and to be able to kind of filter it out and get to the truth of the matter. So, and this is what surprised me is, like the government lied to us about WMD in Iraq. they lied about invading Iraq, and they said there'd be like roses thrown at us as liberators, and everyone would be so excited. That was a lie. Remember, they lied 2 weeks to slow the spread, to stay home for 2 weeks to slow the spread of COVID. That was BS. That masks prevent the spread of COVID. That was a lie. That the COVID vaccination is safe and effective. Now, I will say this. I think the Iranian situation is a little bit more nuanced in that they've said that they have this nuclear material. So you can't 100% say that they don't have it, right? So I think at least I'm going to acknowledge that. And they said that they moved it out of this, the big site with Fordo. But where I get a little bit puzzled is that we don't know exactly what this looks like. Do they have a bomb? Do they have the capabilities to build the bomb? How are they going to, what are they going to do with the bomb? I think these are all kind of open questions. And one of them that I thought was weird is they kept saying, oh, they could build a bomb in 2 weeks. Well, they've been saying that for years, but by constantly pumping the pressure on people, you can see how some people are still falling for it and just going along with it instead of saying, wait a minute, hold on here. You guys have been saying this for 20 years. How are you at 2 weeks to building a bomb for 20 years? That doesn't make any sense. Like, is this really something that has to happen right now? The other piece of this is it's very clear that our intelligence services are basing, well, that's also true. And Mr. Producer says Israel started it. I think that's accurate. That's kind of another piece of this that I think is really something to observe, is that they started the war, they couldn't finish it, and then we had to go in and essentially finish it for them. And so I do think that's a little bit odd. So just like, that's not how I want to run our foreign policy, is that another country can dictate when we do things instead of our president dictating when we do things. I feel like we kind of got led into this. But I think also our intelligence agencies seem to operate as if the Iranian leadership does not act rationally, which is weird to me. So they keep telling us that if they get a nuclear bomb, and let me just add, I don't think they should have a nuclear bomb. So I'm glad Trump did what he did. I'm glad it worked out the way it did. He did a good job. He's a good president. Had this been Kamala or Biden, we'd now be in like full on World War III. So thank God we have Trump. But what I'll say is that our intelligence services assume that if they got a bomb, that bomb would end up in Tel Aviv or would end up in LA or something like that. But that assumes that they don't think rationally, which seems really odd when you look at their actions. So we bombed them. Then earlier today, they lobbed missiles at some of our bases, but apparently they weren't successful. And then they just said, well, we lobbed 6 missiles at them because they dropped 6 bombs on us. And then they didn't mention the fact that they also had cruise missiles. I think the 30 cruise missiles were shot at them. They didn't respond to that, which actually indicates that they're more rational thinkers than what our intelligence agencies are telling us. That was just on the conventional side. Can you imagine, like, if they really went and took a nuclear bomb and put it in LA, what is the end result of that? They will get annihilated. Their entire country, we think the US is just going to say, okay, no biggie. No, we would completely annihilate them, their leadership, and their country. I don't think they want that. I suspect, and you see this a lot with these rogue kind of governments, that they want a nuclear bomb. It's more about regime preservation. But I feel like our intelligence agencies, for some reason, are very geared on the idea that they're just irrational thinkers. I don't think that's helpful. Now, the second lesson from this, so one is, I think people are still over trusting of government when they're saying things, and you shouldn't be. You should question everything the government tells you, because even though we now have some political appointees in place, they're at the head of the agency. There's a lot of career people there that have been there forever and that are left-wing Democrats. They do not agree with us, and they will lie about stuff, or they're part of kind of this uniparty. The second one I thought was interesting is there are a lot of people, and a lot of these influencers who I think are paid to have opinions. Let me show you one that I thought was interesting, because I follow him. I must follow him. Let me see if I can get my computer to work here. No problem. Okay. It's this cat turd guy. His name's Cat Turd. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Stop screen sharing and let me replace it with this tweet for you to see. Hold up. Here we go. Okay. So this is Cat Turd. First, he said, March 8th, 2025, name one U.S.-inspired regime change that hasn't ended in absolute disaster. I cannot name that. They've all been bad. So we shouldn't do it. Then on June 22nd, 2025, Trump posted this tweet. I don't know what this is aimed at, but he said, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change. But if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why shouldn't there be a regime change, MIGA? And then Cat Turd said, we call it a little trolling. That was the answer to this. And I feel like the actual answer to this should be, no, we don't want to do regime change. We don't. And I'll be honest with you, like, is the Iranian government good? No, absolutely not. They're horrible. They treat their people horribly. They kill gays there. They hang them. They murder them. The women are treated horribly. I think the general population is treated horribly. And so it's just all it is a dictatorship. And so obviously they treat everybody horribly. But if you're an American, our goal shouldn't be to go there and change their regime. I think people, this is going to sound bad, but I think people get the government that they deserve, or that they're willing to tolerate. And in this case, it's the Iranian people. If they want to rise up and they want to get rid of their government, that's fine. But I don't think we should be involved in it because we have no idea what follows from that. And I worry about, when these countries like that get quote unquote freedom. So like look at Iraq where they had ISIS, right? Yeah, Mr. Producer, that's right. Mr. Producer said, yeah, it's the same here. We have the government we deserve. I think that's right. We do. When Biden was in power, we had the government we deserved. And honestly, we needed it. I think having that 4 years under Biden was eye-opening to a lot of people that didn't understand how corrupt our government is and how bad things were. Now, a lot of it came to the forefront because once they won, quote unquote, won that election, they pulled their masks off and showed us who they really were. And so that set us up for the Trump win in 2024. But I worry now, I'll tell you, to be honest with you, that we're frittering away his win. We have a Congress that hardly works. These people they're complete losers. They're mostly on vacation. All the time they're on vacation. And now I saw a tweet earlier today where John Thune said, okay, you guys, it's June 23rd. We're going to work every single day until we get the big, beautiful bill passed. Oh, so, and their goal is to get it passed by July 4th. Well, how come you haven't been working every single day since Trump took office? Or even from before he took off? Since the second you had the majority in the Senate and the House, right, the way you had it, why weren't you in session every single day, passing every single plank of his agenda, passing his executive orders, getting this big, beautiful bill done? I don't understand what we're doing. Getting his appointees confirmed. There's still tons of, they confirmed the main appointees, but there's apparently still a lot of appointees on backlog. Yes, you can. Mr. Producer says, can you say lazy cowards? Yes, they're very lazy. It's bizarre to me. I mean, and a lot of people, I criticize Mike Lee for this because I think essentially he's just like a glorified podcaster. That's all he should be, or an online influencer. He hasn't passed any legislation. He's not able to move people to his position in the Senate, despite the fact that he's been there for 15 years. I mean, how much longer do you need to be able to be effective? So, but the point of this is they're frittering the whole thing away. And they're going to set themselves up for big losses in 2026, even though Trump's agenda is extremely popular. If you notice, they can't even push him under 50% approval in their fake polls, because I think the approval is actually higher than that. People want what he is trying to do. If you like the thing, for example, is with mass deportations. Americans want that. I think people have finally understood how many illegal aliens are in the country. I think it's 50 million. It's 40 to 50 million people that are here illegally in our country. And they're taking up resources that should be going to Americans. They're taking up housing that should be going to Americans. They're getting taxpayer-funded benefits, food stamps, school for their kids. The kids are getting free educations, all sorts of benefits. And they're stealing jobs from Americans. They're suppressing our wages because they're willing to work for less. And so people want them out. They want them to leave. And I think that's why that's popular, even though the left has been trying to push this idea that it's not popular, but it's very popular. That's the issue. But the Republican legislature is just not getting it done. I don't even know if they will get it done, to be honest with you, because on some level, I wonder if they would be happy to lose the majority in 2026 so they don't have to do any more work. So they can just fundraise. I don't even feel like there's no value to these people. If someone could name me something that one of our legislators has accomplished that actually pushes us in a conservative direction and implements Trump's agenda, I would love to hear it. Yeah, you should call in if you got that one, because I don't have an answer. I can't think of anything. Okay, but this cat turd guy, I think, there's lots of examples of this, of wherever Trump goes, because here's the thing, with Trump, our job, it is my view that our job as Trump supporters, if you are one, or if you're not, I mean, whatever, is to keep him on the agenda that we actually voted for. So for me, I want mass deportations. I want every single illegal alien to GTFO, get the F out of my country. And frankly, I don't think you should ever be able to come back. I want criminal prosecutions of people in the deep state who've been involved in all of the stuff that they have done to abuse Americans. So the people that were involved in the January 6th prosecutions and putting them in that DC jail where they were physically and mentally abused, I think that they should be prosecuted for that and thrown in jail. I want to see that type of stuff happen. So those are two things. Trade. I want Trump's to go down. I like the trade stuff he's doing. I want us to have actual fair trade. I don't want this unfettered free trade where we drop all of our tariffs and we do the conceptual idea that if all the goods come in cheaper and we have no jobs, it's good for us. I don't agree with that. I think we actually need to manufacture things. We need to make things. I want us to put in a tariff system that makes that happen. I think he's doing that. And I want government cut as much as possible between now and the end of his term. And right now, I don't know if we're going to get there or not. But I think as supporters, it's our job to keep him on that path and no more wars. So when you see things happening that look like he might be going the wrong direction, I assume that maybe he'll course correct if he is going down the wrong path. You saw that with the immigration raids, right? These big donors, these farmers, they said, oh, we don't want, you guys need to stop doing this. Stop doing enforcement on our farms and in our hotels because we don't have any legal workers here now. That's not my problem. But then his DHS put out guidance saying that they wouldn't stop doing those and they'd move the enforcement to other areas. And then he reversed when he saw the pressure coming from his own base. He responds to it. And so I think as supporters, we need to make sure that we are out there, we are talking, we are constantly putting pressure on him to stay on the path. He has the potential to be the most significant president of our lifetimes. But it requires, I just think, staying on that path and not listening to donors, listening to people that are all about, businesses who apparently can't run a business without hiring illegals. Well, and let me say, if you can't, I am fine with your business going out of business. Okay, like part of running a business is you have to hire people that are here legally. And I would prefer that Americans get jobs over any foreigners. Okay. So, but that's kind of how I view this, is we have got to constantly put pressure. So people like Cat Turd, I actually don't think are very useful, because if you're just going to, whatever he says, you're just going to say it's okay, you're not actually being helpful to implementing the Make America Great Again agenda and making sure that Trump stays on that important path to keeping us safe and secure and making America great again. That's my view. Okay, let's see what else I got today. I'll tell you, when I prep for the show, sometimes there's just so much going on. I'm like, oh, I don't know what to talk about. What do I talk about today? I had maybe one more thing here. I already talked about this. Oh, I thought this was a statement. I thought this was kind of interesting. Well, I don't know that I want to talk about. I feel like we've talked about the Iran thing. I'll tell you, I feel a lot better about it. I was a little bit worried because I saw that tweet that Cat Turd talked about, and I got a little worried, like, oh God, I hope Trump is not being led down this path that regime change is a good idea. Regime change is never a good idea. Never, ever, ever, ever. But after that ceasefire thing, I'm hoping that he's actually stayed on the path, because I think, on his gut level, I think Trump is a peacemaker and he does not want more wars. So I feel much better about this, and I'm happy that this was a limited strike and we're not going to be sending troops, hopefully, into Iran. Nobody wants that. Oh, and then you know what happens if you go into that forever war, then suddenly we'll have a bunch of refugees showing up from Iran and we'll have to take all of them in. And you know that the governor of Utah will be sending letters asking them to all come to Utah because he's so excited. And the people here want to virtue signal about how nice they are. So they'll be buying them stuff and things like that, instead of just saying, stay and fix your country. Fix your own country. Okay. Oh, there's one other thing I'll talk about. Oh, good question. Mr. Producer says, whatever happened to Ukraine? We forgot about that one. Maybe Trump will get back to that mess. That is correct. Maybe he will. We'll see. There was, I was going to say one other thing. There was, on the issue of investors buying homes in Utah, I had posted about it this morning because I saw that. And like I said, I actually had run on this as one of my platform planks. It says there's a comment. I'm not seeing the comment though. Let's see again. Let me see what the comment says on here. Oh, on the Russ Rampton reporting, I guess Susan Beretta says, I think Russ Rampton is no longer in the GOP or on the SEC. Okay, she might be right. I don't know. Somebody commented that, let's see. Sorry, we'll close on this. Oh, I said ban hedge funds. This person actually said, God, these dogs. I called the Utah Board of Realtors 8 years ago because housing in Utah was being bought by BlackRock. I was using the tax office and was shocked. The guy responded with little care, quiet, about my concern, and I thought it was strange until I was reminded the real estate agents profit from the sales. Utah has always been about the money and the clout of making a fast buck. Well, when I ran for the state house, the Utah Association of Realtors or board, whatever it's called, they invited me for an interview for an endorsement. And when I brought up that this was one of my proposals was to ban hedge funds from buying homes, one of the guys actually said, oh, that's not an issue in Utah. We don't have that problem here. I've sold tons of homes and I've never seen this issue like what you're talking about. Oh, Mr. Producer is leaving. Okay, I'll talk to you later. We're almost done. And but yeah, I agree with it. I thought it was interesting because he said that, and I was like, no, I read this article. That I was like, I don't have the Utah information, and so if I win, I would like to go in and we'll have some resources. We can do the research to figure out the number here. I just had a national number and nothing more specific. And he was insistent that it was not happening in Utah. He's just not seeing it. But it looks like it's 18% of the homes are bought by investors. You'd have to dig more deeply into this to figure out BlackRock and hedge funds and investment groups. But that's something that it would be good to have more data about. So I would encourage, if there's people out there who have the time and want to look into it, you should ask your legislators to do that work. They can do it. They have legislative research that can help them kind of get to the numbers on that. Okay, well, we are at 7 o'clock. It has been a pleasure. You have been listening to the Goud Crowd, and I love all your phone calls, so thanks for calling in, and we will see you next time.